Hi, Rich Taylor. Thank you for joining me today. You are a political commentator based in Wales, and you have a weekly podcast called Rich Politics. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. Could you tell me a little bit about what is happening in Wales right now?
Well, Sonia, it's astounding, really. I mean, if I was to say what's happening here in Wales right now 2 years ago, people would not believe me. Wales has faced the tightest restrictions more than any other country in the UK, more than England and Scotland, Northern Ireland. We've had draconian measures placed on us by the Welsh government here under Mark Drakeford, the First Minister. For example, our mask mandate here in Wales has never been lifted. We've continued to help for the last 18 months that's been in place. And the irony of all this was, even this week, I posted something on Twitter where the First Minister, Mark Drakeford, was at a party, a Diwali party in Cardiff University, dancing and prancing around to Bollywood music, unmasked. Now, I like a good party, don't get me wrong. And I don't comply to government's rules for a number of reasons. We might talk about that. But, and yet he's laying down the law to Welsh citizens, telling them you've got to wear a mask inside a shop. And what we've seen here, as of the 9th of November, which was Tuesday gone, I was part of a big protest outside the Welsh Parliament against the introduction of vaccine passports into cinemas, theatres and concerts.
Yeah.
The original vote went through on a technicality where one member of the Welsh Conservative Party couldn't get through. And so for me, it's an illegitimate vote and it should have been rerun. The presiding officer should have delayed the voting system because it was done by hybrid because they're not all back in the chamber or the Senate, as it's known here in Wales yet. And now we've been faced with a situation in Wales where the introduction of vaccine passports will have huge societal impact on society. And from this government's track record, I can tell you viewers, it will be irreversible. They're not going to do away with it. And that's what frightens me even more. And there are, of course, people, whether they've had the medical intervention or they haven't had it, that have got opinions on vaccination passports. I can speak about one gentleman, Matt Connolly, who runs a business here in Wales, very successful business, a number of string of restaurants and clubs called Sticky Fingers. He has taken the Welsh government to court because it's going to cost him approximately £10,000 a month to implement the practicalities of running a COVID pass at his businesses. It's just absolutely absurd, Sonia. And I think what we've seen in Wales is because Scotland will deal with this today. I believe Nicola Sturgeon is talking about it today, where she's considering introducing the same measures there in Scotland. And the idea of these vaccine passports, this is what gets me. Now, I don't class myself as an intelligent person. You know, I'm a working class bloke from the streets of Wales, right, who loves his rugby and a good pint at the pub on a Saturday. That's who I am. But I'm clever enough to see through the crap that they're putting out there, because there is no way on God's green earth that the vaccine passport or certification in any way limits or stops the spread of this virus. It's impossible. I mean, if the vaccine isn't working, just admit it, because a vaccine passport ain't going to do it. And it really is getting to the point now where we're seeing the government interfering in our daily lives, and it's an overreach of power into people's everyday lives. That is something that concerns me even more, because where does it say? Look, we see what's happening in Austria, for example. Right now, there are 8.9 million people, and 25% of those in Austria have been locked in their own homes under a medical apartheid. It obviously, we know what came out of Austria before. I'm not going to mention it, but you know, it's apparent to me that what's happening is just complete and utter craziness. And mainstream media don't want to talk about it. That's why I'm thankful for broadcasts like yours, Sonia, because we need to have platforms where our voices are being heard. Yeah. Because it's just deplorable.
Yes, actually with Austria, it's as high as 40% who are unvaccinated. So 40% of the population is essentially in lockdown, and they're only allowed to leave their homes for, I think, purchasing food and work, just for essentials. It is shocking. I completely agree with you there, Rich. I mean, going back, what are your views on Boris Johnson's speech yesterday when he addressed the nation?
I mean, yeah, I nearly fell off my chair, really. I mean, you know, we've gone from this. Remember, you know, just under 2 years ago, we were told, you know, the vaccine is the way out. The vaccine is for adults only. Matt Hancock in the House of Commons got up and said, the vaccine is for adults only. And I've watched, and if I can just say this open, and I've watched how this rollout has begun, the elderly and the vulnerable, absolutely, yeah, okay, if it's going to stop us from dying, we need to do that. And then they started to cascade it down all the ages to the point now where they're talking about 12 to 16-year-olds, which they're already doing here in Wales and other parts of the UK. And now in America, the FDA and all the other kind of companies out there pushing it now on 5 to 11-year-olds, and they've even talked about 6-month-old babies. So we've gone from protect the vulnerable and the elderly, flatten the curve, to injecting kids with a medical intervention. Now, whatever you think about the vaccine, surely there has to be a discussion around that. And what I'm afraid of is that any discussion gets shut down. Any debate around it or questions get shut down. Science without open debate is not science. It's all part of the process of understanding how science actually works. And of course, what I'm concerned about with Boris Johnson's comments at a press conference is for the simple reason that we've gone from that to flattening the curve. Everyone gets the vaccine. They boast on the vaccine rollout. Matt Hancock loses his job because he's getting his leg over the secretary. That's his personal private business. Don't really bother about that too much. And then all of a sudden, we've seen hypocrisy from politicians from CON26, and now we've got this coming back up, boosters. Now he's saying if you don't get a booster, you won't save Christmas. First of all, Christmas is known by Boris Johnson, and it's not owned by any politician. Okay, exactly. That's the first thing to say. Yeah. And I'll be celebrating Christmas the same way I did last year, getting drunk with my friends and eating lots of food and spending time with my family all across Wales, traveling as well, regardless of what the government says. I will not be complying. Good. And so we've gone from that to the situation now, which is a big problem, people complying, where the situation is now where we're told the vaccine, in effect, this is what he said yesterday, the vaccine hasn't worked because it's waning, so we need to give you more. Now, where does this go? Do we continue boosting as we do with the flu jab, which I've never had the flu jab, I've never needed it because I'm 46 years old, I think my age then. I get ill, I go to bed, I'm there for a day or two, drink plenty of liquids, and I recover. It's a cold, it's a flu, I get over it. So I don't want a flu jab, I don't want to bother the NHS and all that kind of stuff. And I'm thinking every single year, even people that I'm speaking to now, Sonia, friends of mine, close friends who've had the vaccination because they, for whatever reasons, most of them because they want to go on holiday, because most of my friends like to go to Spain and Ibiza and Mallorca, they had it for those reasons. Now they're turning around and saying, the conversation has changed now. They're wishing they'd never had it. Yeah. Because they're hearing Boris now with this statement saying, well, you've got to have it again and again. And the only people profiting off this are the big pharma companies, Pfizer, Moderna, all of them. They're the ones that are profiting. And we're talking billions and billions of dollars that they're making off the backs of the people of this country. And that is the question that I always like to ask is, where is this going? How far down the road is this going to go? The introduction of vaccine passport, is it a social credit? Is it an ID that they're trying to get your data, and so much more? And what I fear the most is this, is that people are asleep to it. Yes. People are oblivious to it. They just say, well, the government said it, so we have to do it. I'm like, no, you know, we've seen in history, governments don't always get it right. Politicians don't always, and people need to start questioning the narrative, questioning what's happening. Legislation is being passed by politicians. People need to start questioning it.
You're absolutely right, Rich. I mean, and also what has been completely suppressed, censored, downplayed, whatever word you like to describe it, is the adverse events that are happening to do with the vaccines. Now, if these vaccines were 100% safe, 100% safe, then you think, okay, you know, but they're not. And we're getting increasing mounting evidence that they're not. I happen to have the privilege of interviewing Dr. Peter McCullough. He's a US-based cardiologist. And one of his reports on myocarditis, which are vaccine-induced myocarditis, which was published in the scientific journals, got pulled, got retracted a week before, a week or two before the FDA ruled, gave their approval for the Pfizer vaccine for 5 to 11-year-olds. So, like you were saying, young people, they want to go to a nightclub, they want to go on holiday. They are not getting the informed consent that the information they need, but they've been coerced because they want to go on holiday, and it's really sad. Really sad.
It is, Sonia. It is, Sonia. And you talk about coercion. Being coerced into doing something. I was reading this week. There is, I think it's Serious Crime Act 2015. You can Google it, your viewers can Google it. And I read it, and it's about being coerced. If you're being coerced to do something that you don't want to do, but because they're presenting you with the benefits of doing something and you're manipulating into doing it, it's actually against the law.
Yes.
I mean, I was going to phone the police this week, record it, which I'm still probably going to do for my viewers, and I'm going to record the whole conversation, and I'm going to report the government to the police for serious crime, because that's the act that's in law, where coercion is brought about to get you to do something against your will for the simple reason it will give you certain benefits. That is manipulation, and it is wrong. It should be down to people's personal choice. Now, I respect people's choices, but as you say, the reporting on the side effects and the impact of a vaccine for lots of people, that seems to be buried by politicians. They don't want to discuss it. They don't want to talk about it. And those of us that do are seen as conspiracy theorists, nut jobs, tinfoil hat wearing people. And look, I'm a father of 5 children. I want to protect my family. I want the best for my children and the best for my fellow human beings. So if I see something I don't agree with, I think is wrong, I should have the freedom to express that. And I shouldn't be shut down or censored, which is what's happening across social media. And we've seen it constantly. And the idea that now children, which they've been pushing here in Wales, certainly, can have a vaccine without parental consent is absolutely deplorable. I mean, it's just evil. I just want to call it what it is. It's just evil. It should be informed consent, as you say. Yes, this is what it's about. And a parent can make a decision. But my children, I got 5, I'm not going to mention all their ages, but they can barely get up in the morning to go to school, never mind make a decision on whether or not they want a medical intervention in their lives. And I think, the whole idea of the politicians and mainstream media kind of really kicking into touch, the reports coming in, awash across social media, and some of them fact-checked as well. They're sourced very well, of people explaining, and people suddenly dropping dead in certain places as well. I'm like, what unheard of? What's happening? One of the things I noticed as well is the professional footballers. They didn't want to tell people if they be, this whole thing of the Premiership, they didn't want to discuss their vaccination status because a lot of them, from my understanding at that time, weren't vaccinated because their body is their job, their temple. Yeah. They were fearful of having it because of stories that they were hearing. And those stories were true, by the way. It's not all of them, but a lot of them were. And I think, this bodily autonomy where we make the decisions based on our own bodies, that being taken away by any legislative power of government, to me, is absolutely tyranny. And that's exactly how I see it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really appreciate you speaking out, Rich, and you speak your mind, you speak very candidly and from the heart. And yes, I mean, we've got to call it out for what it is. It is tyranny. And I mean, again, we just have to look to Austria, what is going on. Who would have thought that society will be a two-tier society, essentially. Those who are unvaccinated are sort of shunned and have those liberties just stripped away from them purely on their medical status, on their vaccination status is astounding. And yes, it's up to people to really wake up to what's going on.
Well, it is. And the other side as well, Sonia, is this, you see, this is what I find sometimes frustrating is the people who call those who choose not to give a vaccine passport or choose not to be vaccinated. By the way, I never give out my medical status to anyone apart from my doctor. Yeah. But for them to then turn and call those people selfish, to me, and I've heard presenters do it on mainstream media. I've heard, politicians do it. I mean, I think they're selfish, actually, because how dare they take away people's freedom of choice and bodily autonomy to choose what they want to do with their own bodies? They're the selfish people. Because if the vaccine, remember, we were told, and it's going back to the same thing again, protects the elderly and the vulnerable. So if we've vaccinated those groups that are likely to die from this, what's the problem? There isn't one. They're creating a divisive, they're creating this division within society, and they're putting brother against sister, parent against child, friend against friends. They are creating this division in society, and it's not good. To actually categorize people as you're the vaxxed and the unvaxxed. I hate to hear that. I hate that. No, we're human beings, and we've got to live together. We've fought off germs and illnesses and viruses for our immune system for years. What about natural immunity? Look, I caught COVID twice last year. Yeah. In fact, I had a flu a few weeks ago. The flu that I caught, which wasn't COVID, well, it kind of is COVID, was worse than COVID itself. It knocked me out even worse. Yeah. And so I believe that my body, and if I can be personal here, I mean, my wife, for example, a few months ago, she tested positive. She was really, really ill. So I said, I'll do a test. And I don't like doing the testing. This is before all this stuff came about. And she tested and she was positive and I was negative. Now, I'm not going to go into details, but she's my wife and we're in bed together, right? So, I mean, even that, there's the science around, well, maybe this happened or maybe you're immune. Look, I'm not questioning or saying that COVID isn't real. I know it is. But I think government has overplayed its reach and power and they've divided society over it. And we're seeing it across the world. And I don't know where this is going. I'm not an oracle or a prophet where I say, well, it's this and it's that. But I can say this, the lots of people that I disagreed with and argued with that I called conspiracy theorists, I've had to apologize to. I've had to say sorry to them because I was wrong. Because a lot of what they said, I see happening around me. And that really scares me.
I wanted to ask you about going back to censorship. Have you experienced a level of censorship with the videos that you put out?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, on Rich Politics, I had a video taken down for quoting the JCVI when the Joint Committee of Vaccination and Immunization, when they came out with a report on vaccinating children. I just quoted what they said. That's all I did. And I did a little bit of commentary around it. I mean, within 10 minutes of uploading the video to my YouTube channel, it was taken down immediately. The channel wasn't taken down, unfortunately. A year and a half ago, my Twitter account, I had about 10,000 followers then. I got a lot more now, thankfully, but I had about 10,000. I was suspended for violating whatever. There was no reason in the email from Twitter why I'd been suspended. There was nothing in there whatsoever. I violated their rules, but there was no detail of what it was. That was taken down. So I've experienced it. I've yet to be cancelled for any events I've been involved in because I don't get out very much. I like staying in Wales, but certainly, yeah, I have faced that censorship and I've seen it firsthand with people. And there are times when you put something out there, like a video or like, a tweet, and you're thinking, should I say that? Shall I word it differently? I mean, isn't it terrible in a Western democracy that one has to think about how you're going to word something because you're afraid it's going to be taken down? Yeah. I mean, it's just awful. I mean, I think there are ways around this. I mean, there are more social media platforms like Gettr, Jason Miller, who I know I had on my show a few weeks ago. Yeah. It's a free speech, non-censorship kind of platform. They're competing against Twitter. They're big in America and other parts of India as well, and different parts, but they're over here as well. And I'm not promoting them, but I'm just saying they're there as an alternative. And I got an account on there just in case, because I know potentially what's going to happen. And what it's like, with YouTube, there's certain things you can't say. So people are using Rumble, they're using the one you're always using today. We have to do that because otherwise we can't get this balanced discussion and debate and agree and disagree with each other out there so people can make up their own informed decisions. Yeah.
There's also Brand YouTube, and they're doing great work as well with their platform. I wanted to just ask you, and if it's up to you if you want to discuss it, is your interview with James Whale, the radio presenter, and that kind of ended quite abruptly. Would you like to comment on that?
Well, that was some editorial thing. That was what it was. He had an interview with one of his colleagues and he walked off. So I cut myself doing a commentary on him. That's what that was. It wasn't actually a video with him. A lot of people thought that, they were messaging me saying, Rich, I said, no, what I did is I shot a video because James Wales is like, I mean, I'm all for, listen, he's got the right to say what he says as well. He's got the right to, his opinion and everything else. But I think the way that you go about that and to call people out like that and to slam people. So what I did was I give him a taste of his own medicine. That's literally what I did. And of course, the kind of video went kind of viral then after that. But yeah, so it was kind of showing people exactly how much of a hypocrite he is. Because, if you can't take it, then you shouldn't be giving it.
Yes. No, I agree. I absolutely agree with you. Well, Rich, thank you so much. You've said so much, and it's really informative.
Well, just to say to your viewers, thank you so much for having me on, and I hope to come back on very soon again. And don't forget to follow me on RW Taylors on Twitter, and you can check me out on Rich Politics as well. Thank you very much, Sonia. It's been a delight speaking to you.